was a period where I actually did leave the company, but I came back. And I came back specifically because I enjoy circularity, and that's a passion of mine. I do feel that we as an industry and being in the plastic space, that this is something that should be part of our values and what we offer, because this is kind of the future to kind of complement what we currently offer from our product lines. I've got 2 daughters, one in college and the other one is starting high school. And every once in a while, they do get inspired my passion for sustainability and circularity. So my oldest daughter is studying environmental engineering, and not necessarily that she will follow my path. She's got her own to follow, but it's nice that she kind of, looks up to me. And for
That's
people
exciting.
that wonder where I am from, because I always think, Maximus, that I am a Greek gladiator. No, I am not. I actually born and raised in Cairo, Egypt, and I moved to the U.S. In my late teens, and that's where I started college, and then I've lived in Texas more than I've lived anywhere else in the world. We believe that only 10% of the plastic in the U.S. is being recycled, and that's primarily because of the infrastructure is not there. And the infrastructure, this is all the way from educating the consumer to collecting the material and curbside program to sending it to a recovery facility to actually separate and sort. And then from there, you have the end use, whether it's mechanical recycler or advanced recycler, to recycle that product and make it into a new form.
Welcome to another episode of the LYB podcast. I'm your host, Deepi Sidhu, content and social media manager at LYB. We're continuing our mini-series on circular and low-carbon solutions, and we've got a great guest in store for you today. We've got Mariane Maximous, who is the Vice President of America's Feedstock and Mechanical Recycling here at LyondellBasell. We're going to cover a lot of topics today: advanced mechanical recycling, some big acquisitions that LYB has had this year. But first of all, Mariane, I want to welcome you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, DP.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into everything recycling related and LYB related. Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Mariane Maximous. I've been with LYB for almost 19 years, in the industry for about 24, an engineer by background, and just have done so many different roles in the company that I've truly enjoyed and continue to take on more challenges, I would say. On the personal space, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I've got 2 daughters, one in college and the other one is starting high school. And every once in a while, they do get inspired my passion for sustainability and circularity. So my oldest daughter is studying environmental engineering, and not necessarily that she will follow my path. She's got her own to follow, but it's nice that she kind of, looks up to me. And for
That's
people that
exciting.
wonder where I am from, because I always think, Maximus, that I am a Greek gladiator. No, I am not. I actually born and raised in Cairo, Egypt, and I moved to the U.S. In my late teens, and that's where I started college. And then I've lived in Texas more than I've lived anywhere else in the world.
I know you were joking that you sometimes think in different languages. So what are the languages that you speak?
I do speak. My mother's tongue was Arabic, so I speak and write, or I read too. French is where I went to schools, so that's my second, and then third is my English.
And third is English. Okay, I don't know the other two, so English it is, but thank you so much again for joining us. You've had a great journey at LYB, 19 years. I don't think many people would expect that. You started off as a chemical engineer, then you worked in business and investor relations, and now you're in circular and low carbon solutions. So tell us a little bit about your career arc and how that happened.
Sure. So I spent like the first, I would say, 7 to 8 years of my career in manufacturing. And that was, as an engineer.
Mhm.
I truly loved it. So when I went to school, I was thinking chemical engineer just as a backup option because I wanted to be a doctor. I actually fell more for chemical engineering than wanting to be a doctor. So I continued on that path and enjoyed the plant, enjoyed the challenges, because once you are in the plant every day brings new challenges, new problems to solve. And that's kind of what got me excited every day to go to work. Transitioning into the business, I kind of recognized, while I was, in the manufacturing world, there were a couple of roles that I would fill in that was more on the optimization side. I had this kind of moment to say, I got to learn more on the finance and the business side, how things work, what's cost, what drives the business. So that's when I kind of pursued an MBA. And then after I finished my MBA, I was hungry to do something more on the finance side. So I did a role in business finance and reporting. And then from there, that led me to investor relation, which is, I always look at it as one of the highlights of my career.
Really?
Because I got to learn a lot internally within LYB. I learned so much about LYB and every part of LYB. Also learned about perceptions from the outside, what leverages you have in the industry, and what actually drives investor to look at you and respect you in terms of what you say and what you commit to and what you deliver. So again, that was a great opportunity, and it was a great time at the time because it was almost 10 years ago. So it was a different part of our journey. So it was good to kind of get that exposure early on and build upon it as I grew throughout the rest of my career.
So who led you to Circular and Low Carbon Solutions? How did you get the invitation to join that group?
So in 2020, I was actually leading the specialty polyolefins team. And at the time, I was just hungry for a little more work to do and another assignment. And at the time, we just had made the commitment for the 2 million tons. So I was reaching out to my boss asking, hey, can I would like to just add on to what I have. He said, hey, we're thinking about circularity and sustainability. Would you kind of take that on? So that was kind of like the first step. It was myself and another gentleman at the time, and we were early on before we are actually as a circularity and low carbon solution. In the middle, there was a period where I actually did leave the company, but I came back. And I came back specifically because I enjoy circularity, and that's a passion of mine. I do feel that we as an industry and being in the plastic space, that this is something that should be part of our values and what we offer, because this is kind of the future, to kind of complement what we currently offer from our product lines.
All right. So now currently in your role, you're VP of America's Feedstock and Mechanical Recycling. So for those that don't know, can you explain what is feedstock and why is it so important to the recycling process?
Feedstock, when we talk about it for circularity, that's your plastic waste. That's what if you have access to curbside recycling, that's what you put in your curbside bin. If you don't have access to curbside recycling, it could be what you put in your bag that you take to a recycling program or facility. Could be when you go to the grocery store and they have the take back program for the flexibles. That is also plastic waste. So we're looking at plastic waste that will be the feedstock for the future, which is primarily for our advanced sortation facility, which feeds in advanced recycling, mechanical recycling, and also solvent-based. And we'll talk more about that as we approach it.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to ask, that was my next question. What are the major differences between advanced and mechanical recycling?
Think about mechanical recycling is almost like a physical process to recycle what you put in the curbside. So let's take an example is your detergent bottle that once you use it, it's done. You put it in the recycle bin. It goes through a mechanical recycling facility where it gets shredded, washed, cleaned, and then extruded again into a new pellet that more than likely could go back into another new detergent bottle. So the feedstock for mechanical recycling is more readily available today because that's more sorted and collected in the recycling bin. When we think about advanced recycling and feedstock for it, this is more hard to recycle plastics. Things, not necessarily as available and readily available for mechanical recycling. So think about your bag of chips, your candy wrapper, your garbage liner. Advanced recycler is a process. It's ours. When I speak about our MoReTec, it's a catalytic process where you actually break down the plastic to a molecular level and you convert it into what we call pyrolysis oil. And pyrolysis oil is kind of a naphtha-like type of feedstock that we can process through our crackers.
Okay, so advanced and mechanical recycling, how do the two complement each other?
Our customers, consumers, brand owners, each have demand for specific products. If we think about advanced recycling, this is going to be products that primarily go into food packaging. Like the virgin products, it's no different because it's, pie oil that goes through our cracker and then makes a new pellets. Think about medical products. So those are more suitable for advanced recycling. When we think about mechanical recycling, it's different product line. Maybe we're thinking more consumer packaging that is not as stringent in specs and requirement like what would come out of virgin products. Also potentially automotive, as well as infrastructure and consumer durable.
You mentioned feedstocks and all the different types of feedstocks there are, but what are there challenges when it comes to sourcing feedstock for recycling, and what might those be?
I will talk about the US and maybe touch a little bit upon Europe. So Europe has good recycling infrastructure that has existing, and yes, it's always, I'm sure there's always room for improvement. But they do also have legislation to support it. So you can say that the infrastructure for recycling is more developed in Europe than in the US. In the US, I'll just quote a data point that has been readily available from the industry. We believe that only 10% of the plastic in the US is being recycled. And that's primarily because of the infrastructure is not there. And the infrastructure, this is all the way from educating the consumer to collecting the material and curbside program to sending it to a recovery facility to actually separate and sort. And then from there, you have the end use, whether it's a mechanical recycler or advanced recycler, to recycle that product and make it into a new form.
When it comes to infrastructure, LYB's also made some pretty big acquisitions in this space this year. So let's start with the processing facility in Jurupa Valley, California. What does a transaction like that mean for LYB and for infrastructure and for changing sort of the landscape of recycling here in the U.S.?
So when we were exploring different opportunities last year and thinking through different aspects in the infrastructure, whether on the advanced sortation or in the mechanical recycling, Jurupa Valley was an opportunity out there that we did evaluate. We saw the advantage both from feedstock availability. California is actually one of the states in the country that has higher recycling rate than the national average in the mid-30s, which also will support both the feedstock availability as well as PCR, which is post-consumer recycled content in end application or responsible end market. So was that kind of was the two key drivers for us to explore this opportunity. And then we closed the transaction earlier this year. The intent is to produce approximately between 23 to 25 KTA of rigid PCR, and we will commence operation in late 25 or early 26. And we'll be working through some upgrade projects to produce the quality of products that we would like to sell and market in the industry.
That's exciting. LYB also announced entering into an agreement to acquire full ownership of APK AG in Germany. So tell us a little bit about APK AG and how that can help grow and upgrade the circular and low carbon business.
So APK is a solvent-based recycling solution. It's a new evolving technology. We saw the opportunity there, and we saw how it could be complementary to our mechanical recycling as well as advanced recycling technology and solution that we're offering to the market. We see that we can advance it and build a commercial scale. We see the demand from specific brand owners and consumers. And it's also another step for us to advance our 2 million ton ambition. Can do it all with one or another technology, but we gotta have to explore a full, broad portfolio of different technologies to find the niche and the specific request for every consumer or brand owner.
That's really exciting to hear. Mariane, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you just about trends in the industry that you see emerging that really get you excited about this space when it comes to recycling that you see coming up in these next few years.
First is the consumer wants it. So we all are looking for products that show some type of sustainable incorporation, whether it's post-consumer recycled, whether it's sustainable fashions. We all kind of look for it. So it's not just us as employees of LYB, but actually if you do talk to other people in the world, they will tell you the same. Second is legislation. And legislation, initially it was, you see a lot more drivers in the European side or in other parts in the world, but we see it also in the US. It's one of those emerging trends where we see extended producer responsibility rising in different states, where we see advocacy related to PCR content also on the rise. So that is something that, I would say is differential versus what maybe we had seen in trends in the past. There are new technologies coming up and running that also are driving in terms of meeting those post-recycle requirement. For us as LYB, we're still focused on our 2 million tons, as well as building a profitable circular and low carbon solution business. So the two things that I see we're influencing is one on the advocacy side. We collaborate with our GR team as well as in different industry coalition to impact policy and also see where we can make an influence in terms of advancing the infrastructure. For example, we contribute to an industry coalition called the Recycling Partnership, that its main goal very much focused on educating the consumer, increasing curbside recycling programs, as well as tracking how recycling, infrastructure as well as recycling percentage is advancing in the U.S.
Well, appreciate the insight so much, Mariane. And if you want to learn anything else about LYB and some of these acquisitions, you can always check out lyb.com. Be sure to subscribe for more upcoming episodes on this exciting topic and many more. Mariane Maximous, thank you so much for the time. And thank you so much for listening to the LYB podcast.